everyone, Leanne Pilkington here for the latest edition of Courageous Conversations. And with me, I have the CEO of the Real Estate Institute of Australia, Anna Neelagama. Sorry, I really struggle over your name. Sorry about that.
All good. It's actually my husband's name. So it's a Sri Lankan, so you don't come across that every day.
No, you don't. Well, you were Campbell when I first met you. That was a whole lot easier.
Correct. And that was almost a whole pandemic ago, Leanne.
Yeah, I know. It was a long time ago. Now, just so that people know, I'm actually the Deputy President of the Real Estate Institute of Australia. I'm on the board and have been for about 4 years, I think now. And so I was on the interviewing committee when we were going out to find a new CEO, which is when I first met you. But you've got no real estate experience at all. So how do you go about taking on a job in an industry where your experience is really only limited to probably owning a house or renting a house, right? Living in a house.
Correct. Look, I'd say three key things. One, I love real estate and I've got a passion for it. And as you said, I've owned and rented houses. So that makes it very easy to get across a subject matter really, really rapidly.
Yeah.
If you've got that passion and enthusiasm there. The second thing I would say, when you're going through an executive recruitment process like that, the fact you know nothing is actually an advantage because you can assess the website, you can assess media performance, you can assess advocacy agenda, and you can really just give very impartial, objective view with your expertise, which is policy and advocacy, and tell your potential future board what it is that they need to do. I think the second thing that was really important, I did a serious kind of immersive process. I got to know all the stakeholders. I did a very deep dive on social media. I researched,
God knows what you would have found on social media with some of it.
I found some very interesting things. And you'll note we've completely overhauled the social media since I started.
Indeed.
But I researched it. I reached out to my contacts in government that were working in housing portfolios. So I really got to know the lay of the land absolutely inside out. And then I used the core skills that I knew I had to sell to you guys as the recruiting panel to show you the process I'd take or the journey I'd take and the kind of core rollout plan that I'd do in kind of my first 100 days, first year. So I guess, the passion was evident and that shined through. My lack of knowledge was an advantage. And I backed that by demonstrating that at an executive level, I could actually do that. And I put in place that pitch and the work involved to make that happen.
I was really impressed with the presentation that you delivered that day. How much time did all of that research take?
Gosh, it's a few years ago. I couldn't tell you, but I mean, I would have spent about a week preparing that intensively. I worked with a graphic designer to put it together. But I mean, I guess your job is your life, for good or for bad. And this was a job that I wanted. So it was a process I was heavily invested in. And I wanted to demonstrate that I was the candidate for you, which fortunately that was an investment that paid off.
Yeah, it did pay off. But that's interesting. That is a really serious commitment. So well done, and you have done an incredible job in the 2 years that you've been with us. It's been an absolute. It's been a pleasure to work with you and to watch the change in the Real Estate Institute of Australia. So, where did you start with that sort of transformation of the organisation?
I think it was really just kind of getting in and understanding the lay of the land. Probably many of your listeners are not aware, REA actually owns a facility in Canberra, Real Estate House. Coming in here, having a look at what was in the office, speaking with the team, speaking with the board directors, speaking with our kind of investors, shareholders, stakeholders, which is the real estate institutes themselves,
Yep.
And just really kind of what I describe as kind of a very intense listening exercise and understanding what it is that they wanted, like what was their dream kind of end state, if you like. And really it was they wanted to be united. They wanted to be REA to be walking the halls of Parliament and being a very powerful advocate with a seat at the table. And they wanted to really back it with the very best research and the very best comms. And that's something I obviously took on board really seriously. And we've kind of been very disciplined in trying to achieve that.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. There's a lot going on in the real estate space at the moment. You and I have spoken a lot about property managers and the stress that they're under. What's your view? What do you think we can do to help property managers out there in the field, attract more people into the industry, keep the ones that we've got?
Look, great question. And it's probably the single biggest issue. I get to travel all across Australia and talk to many real estate businesses, and workforce planning in property management is probably the single biggest issue that's consistently raised with me.
Yep.
So I think with that in mind, there's a few things, and I'll start with a bit of a list, and then I'll just probably foreshadow that by saying the property management workforce did an absolutely amazing job. When I talk to MPs and senators in Canberra, they're actually kind of not really aware of the impact of the rental eviction moratorium, and they hadn't fully appreciated that it was actually the property management workforce that took that policy that National Cabinet made, sitting around their Zoom table, if you like.
Yeah.
The property management workforce went out and implemented that on behalf of the Australian government and state governments.
Yeah.
And in my opinion, we haven't quite got the recognition and the acknowledgement that we did for all of that very intense, heavy lifting.
Yep.
And one of the kind of fallouts of that has been that some people have chosen to leave property management because it was a stressful, hard, busy time, as you would know, Leanne.
Yeah, massively.
So I think there's a few things that REA is working on, but if your listeners have ideas, we're welcome. We're keen to work with anyone that's got fresh ideas on getting more PMs and keeping PMs, the ones we've got. So first and foremost is a dedicated skills package to help new entrants into the industry, where you'd get a mentor in who's a retired property manager and help rent roll businesses actually introduce people into the workforce. And that's an idea you and I have collaborated heavily on.
Yeah, we have, with our friend Virginia from Resolver Recruitment.
Correct.
Absolutely, because it makes so much sense. It's my concern is for the business owners that have no idea about property management. And when their senior property manager goes, then they're in real trouble because they can't train somebody. They don't know the skills. And so this concept would actually massively help. But you were trying to get some funding for that project, right?
Yeah, and I think that's still something that's very much live. We've just got to get this thing called the federal election behind us.
What a bloody nuisance that election is.
Yeah. The reality is Australia, all businesses, all small, middle, large businesses are all facing a serious skills crunch. So whoever forms the next parliament are going to have their work cut out. And
well, we're effectively at full employment, right, at 4%? Yeah.
Correct. So we've really got to come up with new and innovative ways to actually fill that skills crunch in property management, but also everywhere. Like I was reading the other day, and this affects housing in the bigger picture. With all the money that's gone in and around COVID into investing in public infrastructure, we only have 50% of the staff we need to actually build all that public infrastructure. So yeah, that's trades, engineers, etc. So it's not just us, if that gives anyone listening comfort. Yeah. It's everybody.
It's everybody. Yeah, my husband's in construction, so I know that, massively. They've got so many projects on the go and they've really struggled to get the people they need to deliver them.
Yeah, so it's going to be a challenging time. So as I said, whoever forms the next parliament, they're really going to heavily invest in skills, and part of that will be immigration. So we'd obviously love to see property management back on the skilled immigration priority list.
Yep.
But we'll keep on talking to property management businesses. If people have great ideas of what's working in terms of retention, we'd love to hear them. And if you've got new innovations that you think the whole of industry would benefit from, please pick up the phone, give us a call, because we're only through collaboration are we going to kind of solve this kind of big picture kind of people shortage.
Yeah, and we do need to, you'll never replace a property manager through technology, but there's a lot of technology solutions that will ease the load and get rid of some of the more mundane parts of the job. It's a matter of getting people that have got time to work out what the solutions are and implement them, right? Property managers have got so much on their plate, just, adding that to it is hard right now.
Oh, totally. And look, I just can't even imagine, new people coming in having to manage hundreds and hundreds of properties. It's a big job. I know that. I've been a tenant. I really do think that's going to be, front and centre on the agenda for RIA.
Yep.
And I think putting people first in the industry is going to be a critical part of the next phase of the industry's success.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And talk to me about the single rule book. What's across the country? One of the things that drives me nuts is so many different legislative processes and training and licensing. Everything's different around the country. I don't know how national organisations deal with it, to be honest.
Look, Leanne, it's really funny because RIA is actually approaching its 100-year birthday. That will be in 2024.
Wow.
And in 1924, we had our first conference of all the institutes. It was at a big fancy hotel in Sydney. So we'll have to go back there in 2024. But one of the big issues was consistency of real estate standards across Australia in 1924. So it was a bugbear for the forefathers.
Oh, no, 100 years and we've made no progress. That's a nightmare. Oh, Anna.
I think the reality is we have made an extraordinary amount of progress. I mean, the institutes themselves are very much on the same page when it comes to standards of training, of licensing, and of on-the-job compliance. So industry leads with that regard. The regulators simply haven't caught up. So I think everyone listening should feel very reassured. Where institutes are setting the bar is very, very high. And what we'd like is for state and federal governments to come to the party and meet us there. So we've got a few things that we're working on, but one of the more exciting things is we just received an innovation grant to build a real estate licensing exchange. So the easiest way I can explain it is your driver's license. You can drive anywhere in Australia with that driver's license, and that's powered by a piece of software called Nevitas. So basically, we're going to build Nevitas for real estate licensing, and with that, we'll be able to introduce all sorts of innovations like bridging courses across borders.
Yeah, okay, because I was going to ask about the different legislative requirements in, Queensland, for example, versus New South Wales. There are quite significant differences. Correct.
So that will kind of allow us to kind of plug those gaps, if you like, and make sure the information and the training is getting to everyone. So I think with innovation and a bit of determination, we'll be able to kind of achieve that single ticket, single rule book. We probably just will get there in a different way than we imagined in 1924, for example.
Yeah, because there was conversations around national licensing. And so I suppose whilst this is not really national licensing, it does make it easier to achieve the same outcome.
Correct. And I think the onus is on us as industry to lift the standards, because we have to be realistic. If the regulators were going to do that, that's going to take some time. So we've got to lead and then hope that kind of bare minimum compliance actually lifts to align with best practice rather than bare minimum.
Yeah, and the frustrating thing for all of us is that we get so far down the road and then all of a sudden one stupid mistake from one individual then just drags us all back down. So we've all got to be mindful. It's not just the institutes, it's every single real estate practitioner out there in the field, isn't it? Correct.
Our focus for RIA is really going to be looking at how we can talk about all the good news stories real estate agents bring to the table in terms of the role they play in their communities. They're very philanthropic, they're very trusted. People talk to their agents all the time, even if they're not selling their house or renting a house, because they're a genuine, trusted advisor.
Yeah, and I think they're so generous, aren't they, when it comes to supporting schools and sporting teams, and, the list goes on and on and on.
It really is. It's quite extraordinary how integrated people are with their towns and suburbs. So I think the onus is on us to build that goodwill with the community. to show them for every bad story, there's literally millions and millions and millions of good stories, and we're very well positioned to do that.
So how do we do that?
Look, to be honest, I think it's a bit of better marketing 101, better trust building 101. I know our counterparts now, the North American realtors, they've done a great job in promoting the role of agents as a trusted advisor in their community, and they've had really excellent success in terms of their evaluation. So I think that sort of bigger picture thinking, that's looking at positioning an agent as a lifestyle advisor, as someone that's embedded into your community, someone that's committed to the success of yourself in your life journey and wealth journey. I think that's something we've really got to increase investment in.
Yeah, I completely agree. I'm actually building a training session for some of my people at Lang & Simmons on that very thing right now. Because some agents are fantastic at looking at that whole of lifestyle conversation. Kathy Baker, for example, from Bell, comes immediately to mind. She does an incredible job in that space. And I think more and more agents need to take a leaf out of that book and start thinking that through a little bit more.
Correct. And I think agency practices, at the end of the day, tech stacks, they're going to drive a lot of productivity, but it's always going to be a really human-to-human relationship, and a very kind of emotive one. Like, the big days of your life, weddings, funerals, when you buy, when you sell a house, they're all up there.
And I think, actually.
we've got to really tap into that, and people really rely on their agents to give them good advice when times are good and when times are tough. And I think we've got to, as I said, I called it a goodwill bank. We've really got to increase the interest in the goodwill bank, I'd suggest.
Yeah, absolutely. 2 years in, what has surprised you about real estate agents or with the real estate industry?
2 years in. Look, I probably just didn't realise the scale of the operations just in terms of the business size and the outreach. And you've got like the very big kind of franchises right down to, what I'd call a mum and dad style business.
Yep.
But you guys are really everywhere. It's quite amazing. There's nowhere you go where there isn't real estate agencies. And I mean, that's just such an amazing story to be part of when you're advocating for an industry.
Yeah. And I guess that's why it's so important for, because a lot of real estate agents, most real estate agents are members of their state institutes, but a lot of them are not really clear on why and on the value that they bring. And I think trying to marshal that cohesive voice, right, and be able to lobby to get a result that's good for consumers and the industry, it's so important. So that's one of the reasons why we need to be active members of our institutes, right?
Completely. And I do sincerely hope that the very good job that all the state and territory institutes have done throughout this COVID-19 pandemic, where government policy settings turned on its head overnight, not once, but many, many times.
Oh, so you don't need to tell me about it.
Yeah, you're smiling at me like, yes, I understand.
Yeah.
I do hope all the kind of quite amazing advice and regulatory change and very strong advocacy remains front and centre in agents' minds as we navigated that kind of quite amazing shutdown, not shut down, open home, no open home. Institutes were central to getting keeping the industry open in some instances and getting them back to business straight away. So I do hope if there's a key message I could get across, that's what we're here for. That's our bread and butter, and that's to make your guys' lives easier, your business more productive.
Yeah, certainly I don't think people realise the importance of the institutes in keeping, the states that were open for business, and New South Wales was one of them, the institutes played a massive role in making sure that happened. So I don't think people realise that or realise what people like, what the agents in Melbourne went through was just horrendous. So, yeah, that's a good enough reason to be a member of the Institute, just there alone.
Correct.
One of the questions that I ask people at an induction, Lang & Simmons inductions, or two questions I'm going to ask you, is tell me something that you're proud of. And with women in particular, they immediately go to their kids or to their partner. So I want to know something that has made you proud personally, and it's not about your husband, and it's something that you've achieved that's made you proud. Because I just want people to think about that in their own lives.
Yeah, look, I think that's a great one. I mean, I'm obviously extraordinarily proud of the work we've done at RIA since I joined 2 years ago. But I mean, if you're looking back on your whole of life, I think all the things I'm proud of on a professional level has been really helping business. Before real estate, I was in agribusiness. And I helped in agribusiness to manage a few kind of quite significant crises. We got some big trade deals over the line, and they were things that either saved businesses a lot of money or unlocked quite significant value and growth. So, I mean, they're the things I'm proud of on a professional level.
Yeah.
On a personal level, and I think I said this to you when I first met you, I kind of really got into gardening over the pandemic. So I'd bought a house in 2019, and I spent kind of the whole initial lockdown transforming my garden, and I actually planted, I think, around 500 tulips. So I think there's about 1,000 tulips in the ground now. So I'm very proud of that. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
It's like a little floriade at my house in spring.
You are. You'll have to send me a photo in spring.
Yes, well, I can send you last spring. It's quite something. I'm going to try and get on the Floriade map, which is the Tulip Festival here in Canberra this September.
Yeah, that's amazing. I've only ever been able to get my husband to Floriade once, and of course it was a late spring, and so we got there and nothing was in bloom, and he's like, well, this is a waste of time, Wiki. We're not doing this again.
No, thank you.
No, thank you. So the other question is, what would surprise us about you? And you know what? Probably the 1,000 tulips in the garden probably would have been a good answer to that.
Oh, sorry, but I'm very proud. I'm very proud of that because I never saw myself being a gardener. I'm actually from. Do you remember that cartoon Beyond the Black Stump?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm actually from Blackall, which is the home of the Black Stump, which is it was back in the olden days the geographical centre of Queensland, and the guys that were doing all the cartography and stuff.
Yeah.
Their marker for the geographical centre of Queensland was actually a burnt out tree, which is the Black Stump. So I am from Blackall, home of the Black Stump.
Oh, wow. Wow,
yeah.
That's what's the population there like?
So it's got a population of 1,200, and just to give people listening a sense, it's 12 hours drive from Brisbane, but back in the olden days, it was kind of where like all the outlaws and the frontiersmen, it's the last place you could cash a check before you disappeared into the bush. So it was like real kind of frontier country.
Right, sounds a bit Wild West.
It was back then, yeah, very much so.
Oh, okay. Well, it's been so lovely catching up with you. Obviously, we do see a bit of each other, but, you know, board meetings are not really the place to chat, are they?
No. Well, I'm thrilled that you had me on, and look, please, your listeners, jump onto our Instagram, jump onto our website. We love to hear from agencies with good ideas or bugbears. Please always get in touch.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you for being so accessible and so willing to collaborate. It's massively important.
Awesome. All right. Thank you, Leanne.
Thank you so much. See you soon.
See you.